Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the BUILD Mastermind. We've got 3 of our 4 hosts on here today, Mike, myself, and Mr. Jim Black. This mastermind is all about getting super strategic and tactical in regards to building your business and your personal mastery. We believe that you are exactly who your brand will be, which ironically is next week's topic, which we'll dive into. But it's really, really important that as we're building our businesses, that we're doing this in a smart way, that we are understanding the basis of each of these different areas. There's so much to learn. There is so much to know that even 7, 8 years into running a team, I'm still learning stuff every single week. And so for those of you out there who may be brand new to the industry, I know there's a couple people, Tracy in Texas, a couple people who are brand new in here. You feel like you're behind for the first 5 to 6 years, just so we're super clear on things. Okay. So just so you know, you're never going to feel like an expert. You're never, ever going to feel like you have it all figured out, literally ever. So welcome this morning as we intro that particular subject. Today, we're going to be talking about how to build a value proposition and how to win more listings. Last week, we deep dove into buyer consultation and signing buyers. And this week, I want to talk a little bit about this other side, which is the listing side. In my opinion, and I want this to be interactive, so I'm going to, obviously have Jim and Mike on here, and I want other people to pitch in as well. But in my opinion, creating a value proposition is not just like what services you're providing, but a value proposition is selling the client on a process and character. Who are you? Are you someone that they are confident can execute at a high level? Do you have a process that has been proven? Or do you have a process that they feel confidence that will, again, execute what they're trying to do? Michael, I look like you had something to say on that one.
I was just, the proven process part of the value prop is really important. I think there's a lot of agents that just kind of wing it and they don't have a process. Like they just kind of shoot from the hip when it comes to their listing business or their buyer business. And that results in chaos and it results in missed expectations and a shitload of stress for your client. So it's super important to take the time to step back, slow down, and identify and articulate what your process is going to be for listings to get it down to a science. Like we have a saying, that good enough is not good enough. It's got to be fucking perfect. And we're continually improving and enhancing our workflow and process. Like just yesterday, Rachel and myself and our listing coordinator were sitting down and we're talking about like 2 or 3 little tiny shifts we could do to make our listing process that much smoother and that much better. So when you have proven process, you have predictable outcomes, and that's what clients are looking for.
Exactly. And if you're newer and you don't have a proven process yet, if you're still figuring out what on earth, how do I talk to people about, walking through a process that I don't even really completely understand, that maybe I've seen pieces of or heard bits of, and I don't really exactly understand or know what to do. This is where the art of real estate and the art of sales has to come in. Okay. And I'm going to provide you literally some of our actual material that you guys can R&D, you can take and duplicate and whatever you need to do, because it's really important, in my opinion, that to understand that from our perspective, as a real estate agent, services can be customized. Okay, let me say this again. Services that you provide can be customized. So when we lead with all these awesome things that we do and services we provide and cleaning and staging and all these things, we do not yet know if that is what that particular client needs. So we have to slow down. We have to ask the right questions. We have to figure out what specific services are going to work for this particular client in this particular instance with this particular home. Then we can customize the services in order to make it personally, the process customized to that particular person. And I think this is a big mistake that a lot of real estate agents make, is they go in with, we provide this service and we'll do this for you. And look at all these feature dumps all over their client. Look at all these amazing things we'll do for you. And the client was like, I was just hoping that you could like stage the living room and like everything else is cool. Right? Like we're over, promising and over servicing these people as opposed to listening and stopping and slowing down. And what does this person really need? And what could really actually help this person? And what would actually get this home sold as opposed to all these crazy projects they're talking about. Okay. So first rule of creating a good value proposition is slowing down the conversation and listening. Asking questions. Jim, what do you got on this particular part of the subject?
So I think one of the biggest things with this, when I'm going in, there's a couple of things I'm doing. One of saying, we have options, and then I need to ask questions, like you said, to understand what those options are that they want. Like they might not want to go and stage the house. They might want to sell it just as it is. And if I don't know that question and I keep going down that path, they're gonna be like, this isn't my guy. This guy only sells fancy houses. He doesn't sell houses that need a bunch of work. So I need to understand, like, hey, here's our options. Like, are you looking to do some work, or do we look to sell it as is? But then from, I think, like a marketing standpoint, I always go in, we have a standard marketing plan, but we customize to every home based on your situation in your home. So really, we're going to ask some questions to understand what's going to be the best way to market your home given your situation.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to share my screen again, or not again. I'm going to share my screen here to kind of show you guys the process overview. Okay. And this is, again, just like on the buy side that we shared last week. And if you didn't watch last week's, go to last week's build. Mike did a phenomenal job of breaking down, bringing value in the buyer consultation, signing the buyers every time, walking them through that proven process. So we're doing the same thing that we've had on our team for years. And I'm going to show you guys the proven process on the selling side. Okay.
Rachel,
so just like on,
can
okay.
we on the value proposition side, I want to make sure we dispel what it is not, because I see this a lot from agents. It is not just being the cheapest agent as far as commissions go. If that is your value proposition, you are fucking lazy. Like, you got to go back to the drawing board. You got to go figure it back out. That's not enough to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. There will always be somebody cheaper than you. Okay. So if that's your value prop, you got to go back to the drawing board, people.
Mm-hmm. It's a great point. I think that it's
to the backflip.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, Mr. Novak and all of his curse words. I think that there are a lot of agents that they don't understand how to articulate or how to customize these process and this experience for people. And so the way to win in their viewpoint, I got the client, but did you? Like, now you're putting out money for listings, because listings are expensive. Typically we're paying for photos, and sometimes we're paying for cleanings, and sometimes we're pitching in on the staging. And, we're spending a lot of time going back and forth with these people, preparing their homes. Like, it's expensive. It's time intensive. It's very time intensive on the buy side too, but the listing side, you have hard costs that you cannot recoup unless that home sells. So if your only value proposition, to Mike's point, is to decrease the amount that they're paying you, first of all, how is that going to come across to them? Okay. When you walk into a store and you're like, wow, like, I really like this jacket. I really like these shoes. I really like this bag. I really like whatever this is. And you walk up and go like, I love this. It's just a smidge. Like, I just, wish a little bit more out of it. And the person's like, oh, well, I'll just give you 50% off. Like, great, but it'll immediately devalue that particular thing in your mind forever. What, Jim?
What's wrong with it? There's something wrong.
Exactly. So the majority of people, like, if you don't value your work, if you don't value your service, if you don't value what you bring to the table, and by discounting it immediately, they're going to have a lower perception of value of you. Okay. So great point, Michael. And thank you for bringing that up. Has anybody dealt with losing listings to other discount brokers before? Mm-hmm. Everybody has.
I think that there are absolutely, without question, people out there where price is their sole criteria for looking to hire. But I think more often than not, that is not the deciding criteria to win the listing or not. A lot of it is the connection. And a lot of it is them really believing that you're going to be the person that will guide them through this process and get them the best possible outcome.
Exactly. Marty, what's up, friend?
What's up, Marty?
Yo, what's up? What's up, you guys? How are you?
Great.
Good.
So I love this topic, this conversation. And from my experience, I had somebody that I love very much, one of my best friends. I had her husband like literally say that somebody would do it for, I was charging them my family rate, which is like, and for when I work with buyers and sellers, I charge 2.5 opposed to 3.5. Those are my rates. When I told him 2.5, he said there's somebody who would do it for 4. So, and at this time it was like, I was maybe year 2 in the industry. But something that I learned then when I thought about it, I'm like, you know what, this is amazing. I'm going to do it for 4. But when I start having these conversations about what my rate is and what my price is, it's going to be predetermined. And I tell people my rate's not negotiable. You see the value or you do not. So, so when my friend, when I told my friend that I would honor that and do it for her at 4% because I love her so much, she's like, sorry. I'm like, don't be sorry. What Mike taught me, not Mike Novak, but Mike, her husband, what he taught me is that I'm going to start incorporating into my presentation that I do not negotiate my rates because I know my value. And you know my value too, and you see it or you do not. But those are, that's something that, I maybe could help somebody on the call. Don't know.
Yeah. I love that. And to counter that, I'm gonna pivot here because there is another portion of this that I really wanted to show you guys. And that is, has anybody on here ever used a listing menu? Maybe not. So I'm going to share my screen with you and show you what our listing menu looks like. Not every agent on the team uses it, but a lot of us do. And I have many times, dozens of times I have used a listing menu. This, for those people who are looking for the discount, for those people who inevitably are looking for that, they don't want to pay this rate and they don't care if they're staging and their house is going to sell anyway, right? There's always those people that money at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And they still may be a great client, but that may be an insurmountable objection. And in that case, we have this listing menu where we have basic, flex, and a VIP package. And each of these packages are going to include a basic level of services and marketing. But down at the bottom here, there's a significant amount of cost associated with professional staging and aerial photography and all these other things that are actual true hard costs. Then we also include what we call the concierge service package. So at these rates over here, we'll also include a paid pre-inspection on your home. We'll also waive the professional services. Like we'll do these other things. So if in the case that you do run into the commission objections and it's insurmountable for this person, it's all about the numbers, it's simple to bring something like this out and be like, no problem. I totally get only wanting to pay this amount. Like that totally makes sense. You've got a budget. You want to make a budget. I get it. You only want to pay this amount. Here are some options. And then we can a la carte add these, and I'm negotiating 0.25%. Boom. Yeah, you got it. Let's add that 0.25% more on the listing side. Boom. Okay, you don't want that. Great. Let's pull 0.25 off the listing side. No problem. And I am sitting there and we are back and forth having a conversation. What does this commission structure look like? What services am I specifically providing you? Boom. Now we have an agreement. Sign at the bottom, sign the listing paperwork, and off we go. This has been very successful.
May I ask why by the way, the basic package has a 3% instead of a 2.5 suggested buyer's fee?
Perception. A lot of people will say, like on the selling side, well, I only want to pay you 3%. Like, okay, well, the basic package is 3 and 3. Is that what you'd prefer? Because some sellers have an issue paying the listing side more. Okay. And again, when I'm looking at this, this is starting point. I'm starting here with negotiations, right? Our basic, the flex package is kind of the main one that we do almost all the time. Our standard operating procedure for us, we're not supposed to talk about commissions, but our basic apples are 3.5, 2.5, right? In our market, because the listing side has a significant more amount of hard costs, right? Than the buy side. But if they really only want to pay 3%, then I'm going to start at 3 and 3 or 3, 2.5. So that's fine. Yeah, the concierge service is great. So that we use, and that was given to us 6 years ago, Michael, 6 or 7 years ago by a coach. And we've updated it and improved it and evolved it and added things to it over time as the markets shift. So, in 2020, 2021, I don't think I pulled this out one time. Like things are moving so quick. Houses were selling so much. I didn't even need to have like a value proposition, right? It was just, we're signing and we're listing the next week and it's sold that 3 days later, 100,000 over list price, right? But now people are savvy. People understand that it's not just about the services that I provide, but it's the process, and it's them feeling confident that I can walk them through it.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you don't automatically assume too that a buyer agent commission should be the same as the listing office commission, because they're two really different responsibilities and they have two different cost structures behind them as well. It's not unusual for our team to pay to stage an entire house, which might be like $3,000 or $4,000. It's uncommon for us to spend a couple $1,000s of marketing a listing. There's like all these direct hard costs, whereas with a buyer, it's really just your time. Like there's not an immense amount of cash going out the door for this person to close transaction, if that makes sense.
And so a lot of really savvy homeowners, you know, we live in an area, Brendan, you know, like we live in an area where people are very savvy. Like we've got a significant amount of tech people. These people are making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Like they're looking at every single line item, everything that we do. So setting expectations, having a clear path, every single meeting, having a next step, what's happening next is super, super important. So having a document like this, having something where you can say, this is everything we provide, this is everything that we offer, what's most important to you, right? We've already gone through that conversation of what's important to this person, what's going to work well for them, what are they looking for in an agent, what are they wanting out of this process, what kind of services are they expecting? Now I can build a customized plan for that particular seller to meet what they're looking for, and then attach this price to it, no problem, no questions asked, this is business. So that is a listing menu. Now, so we know that services can be customized, but I want to talk about character a little bit. Michael, you brought it up in regards to people want that connection, right? People want to feel like you are the person who will lead them through this process. And guys, that can't be faked, right? Character, care, that can't be faked. So I know on our team, a huge part of us becoming better real estate agents is a consistent focus on personal development, right? How confident are we as people? How confident are we in the market? How confident are we as real estate agents having conversations? So if, again, you're new or you are struggling with some of that confidence because the market has changed and it's a whole new world out there, it's a Wild West. I'm glad you're in this room, number one. But number two, you've got to lean on people around you, either in your brokerage or if you're on a team, in your team. Be telling the stories of the people around you. Is anybody feeling like struggling with this part right now? Dr. Michael Lindsay, tell me if you're willing to share.
Absolutely willing to share. Thank you all for having me today. I have a independent brokerage with about 15 agents, 13, two of them not really active, but 13 agents. And, you know, with the shift, there has been a lot of pressure with, you know, the market changing, you know, first the increase in values of properties, where now you have to make offers higher than what they're asking for in order to get it, with a appraisal guarantee. And then right after that, the interest rate hike. And then right after that, the NAR settlement, you know, so it's just been one thing after another. And, you know, agents are, you know, like leaning on me heavier than they've ever leaned on me before. Right. And now it's like, okay, what is the market going to do? You know, and everybody's assuming this, but now we know as brokers and leaders in the industry that, you know, we have to tighten our belts, get back to what I consider the basics, and, you know, build ourselves up, you know, for what the market or the cards have dealt us, and get back to, you know, role playing scripts and things of that nature. And I think I heard you say something about self-development. So, you know, puts a little when you've been cruising for so long, and now it's like, okay, you got to get back to it, you know. So
right. Oh yeah, exactly. And I feel that completely. I think that, you know, we've talked a lot over the last couple of weeks, and as the market has shifted, about, you know, if you've been in this industry, or if you're around people in this industry who are doing big things or have accomplished things before, and you have people that look up or lean on you, like, this is the time to become a lighthouse, right? This is the time to become a place that people are looking for. And the only way to do that is to focus on your personal development, to focus on your leadership skills, to focus on your personal excellence, right, in every area. Those people are looking for those beacons of light, those lighthouses. So you're in the right room, Dr. Michael Lindsay, for sure. And it's awesome. That's awesome. So let's circle back a little bit. So we understand the customize, setting the expectations, understanding what the client's looking for, and having that good, listening conversation. Then we're talking about, commission objections, having a listing menu to be able to customize the process and the services that we provide. But what about the actual process? How do we talk about the process that they go through, right? And if you've done listings before, you know how choppy it can feel for most people. We just recently created a couple of email series. Michael and I did. He wrote them. I whatever, put them in. We've created a couple of email series. So just like we talked about last week with the buy side, once you meet with the buyer, he has kind of a buyer drip of information, an email series that goes out explaining things and reminding them of what earnest money is and what all these different parts of the process do. So we've created the same thing on the sell side. And I think that's really important. Let me pull this up again. It's really important that you're able to articulate what exactly the process looks like for people and exactly what their responsibility is in that process versus what your responsibility is, okay? The majority of time on the listing side, we're just setting expectations. We're just letting them know, these are the things that you need to do. These are the things that I will do. And you damn well better make good on it. So I'm going to share my screen here. And Michael, I'd love for you to kind of share through how you set the expectation in regards to going live, what that looks like each step of the way.
Yeah, well, before I get to this, like when I go to a listing appointment, I just try to connect with the person for the first 5-ish minutes. Like typically we kind of do this awkward kind of like dance towards the kitchen area as I come through their door, and we're just kind of like talking and BSing, and we end up at the kitchen. We end up kind of like catching up and reaffirming everything that I know about them and where they're going and why they're selling and all these other things and what they've done to the house. I always compliment them on the house, really important in my opinion. And then I ask them for a tour of the home. They show me the house, and then I'll typically ask them like, hey, do you guys want to sit down, hover around the island? What are we doing here? And usually we end up in the kitchen, sometimes in the living room, and I will go over the CMA first because everyone wants to know what the value is. You know what I mean? Like they want to know what you think their home is worth. I don't give them an exact number. I give them kind of a range of numbers. Like, if it's, I might say like 725 to 775 based on what you do to the home between now and when you list it, and depending on what the market's doing when it comes live to the market. So we'll have the pricing conversation, like just kind of get it out of the way, because that's I think if you don't address that up front, I know you do this too, Rachel, then I think that they're not as present for the process because they just want to get to the number. Does it make sense? Like they're just wanting to get to the actual number. Once you tell them the number, you've got that elephant out of the room. Now we can have a better conversation about what that process looks like. So we break it down into a 4-phase approach. The first phase is the preparation phase. And I stress that this is going to be the hardest phase on them. This is going to be the one with all the heavy lifting. This is going to feel like an immense amount of work. It is in no way fun, but it is super, super important to get the home prepped correctly to go to the market. You can just throw a home on the market, and that's one way to do things. Or you can take the time to do it right and get the home decluttered, get it depersonalized, get our stager out there to do a home editing walkthrough with you, all of those types of things to actually get it sold and presented for the most amount of money. So I'll talk about the preparation phase, and I'll definitely amplify how painful and difficult it's going to be because it sucks. Like it just does. And I think it's important to be direct and upfront about that. I also stress, the first step is to decide to work together too. Like after we get an agreement signed, the next step will be to have us come out and schedule that home editing walkthrough. So I frame it that way as far as preparation. Once we go live, I just kind of like give them an idea of what to expect in the week leading up to live date, such as the staging that's going to occur, like the hard staging, the photography, all of the digital marketing that's going to be built. And then I'll tell them we're going to, hop back on the phone a day or two before the live date once we've got those marketing assets built, and we'll reaffirm price. Like we'll do another update on the market. We'll look at our active competition to see what's come on since we first met, because it could have been a couple of months. We'll look at any closed comps that may have pushed our price up or down, and really reassess the market, and then pick our price at that point on where we're going to come on. I will also frame kind of what I'm looking for and expectations for price once we come on the market. I'll tell them like, hey, like this is based on all of my experience and the data I'm seeing, I think this is our price. However, we're going to want to confirm this is the price by the feedback we get while we're on the market. So the barometers or the kind of data points I'm looking at is a couple of things, Mr. Seller. The first one is how many showings per week are we getting? And I'm typically looking, depends on the market, but it's usually 2 to 3 showings a week to know that we got the price right. And I can pull up in the MLS and see how many showings per pending the market is averaging. I want to make sure we've got an offer by the time we get to that number. If we don't hit either one of those things, we are getting a rejection of price. I just frame that because I don't want to have, I don't want to miss the price, which happens all the time because markets are really dynamic and they change all the time, and then not have them in the mindset of knowing what I'm looking at to tell us the price has been wrong. Does that make sense?
Now, I think you guys, this is like a super, super important, because when you're setting the expectations, this process is going to be really difficult. That is going to take a lot of work on their part, especially in phase one. Phase one is like 90% of the work for them, right? It's a pain in the butt to go through your house and like organize some of your closets and declutter and pull all your beautiful family pictures off your walls, and maybe even rearrange some of your furniture. Like it's a huge pain. And then when you talk about, this is what it looks like for the price, like we have to be looking for these markers. If we're not getting this, we've missed the mark. And continuing to put the value in the hands of the market instead of owning the value of their home. Okay, like the framework has to be, the market is going to continue to communicate with us. And this is what that looks like: a number of showings, feedback from buyers, right? The market is the one communicating the value. Because at the end of the day, fair market value is only what a buyer is willing to pay for that property. So continuing to push back on that. And if you're setting expectations the entire time, and the tone of your communication is really like setting these expectations for how difficult it may be, but that you're there to help relieve that stress, you're here to help, customize these services, you're here to help assist in these ways. Then when it's not quite as difficult, it is going to be a better experience because of their perception of the process. Okay, so that's why we set it so like, this sucks. Like, this is awful. When your house is on the market and you're having it staged and you're having to clean up your dishes and not leave anything in the sink and pick up your laundry and put away your toothbrush, it feels like you have to live on a movie set every single day. And every single day feels like a week long, and every week feels like a month long, right? As opposed to being like, it's totally no big deal. Just tuck it away. You're fine. It's no big deal. And then 3 days go by and they're like, it's been 3 months that my house is on the market, right? Like, you have to be able to frame the expectations as if this is quite a bit of work, because it is. But if you've done your job and set those expectations well, then they'll come in and be like, well, like you said, it's a lot of work, and this, it does feel a little laborious, but like, it's okay.
I'm sure everyone has some version of what we call a home editing walkthrough, but you'll see it on phase one. It's the 3rd bullet point down. That is really a great process. And I think it's helpful for your value proposition. If you're not doing this, please figure out a way to do it as soon as possible. What we do is, like, as a follow-up, after we've got signed listing paperwork, we schedule a walkthrough with typically the agent and then one of the stagers from our team. And we'll go room by room through the house and tell them what we think they should do with each one of these spaces. And a lot of it's getting stuff out of there. If there's any updates to the home that need to occur, talking about what those are going to be. And then we put it in a bullet pointed checklist that we email to the client within 48 hours of the walkthrough being completed. So now we have a working live document that both our team and they are working towards to actually get us to the market. So instead of all these things just rattling around their head that they think they got to do, or God forbid, like a post-it note, they have an action item list. People do best off of task lists. It takes the stress way down. And the other thing is they want this meeting, so they're more likely to want to sign the listing paperwork. They're like, if you're, hey, to do that, I got to get signed listing paperwork. Awesome. Here you go. Right. And you sign them right away.
Here's an example. Yep. Here's an example of what the home editing checklist looks like. So we have a master document in Google Sheets, and we'll make a copy and customize it for every single person. So I'll literally go through. We have specific rooms, right? Every single room has a little bit of a checklist to do. This is a very light one. This home is a beautiful home. She has great taste, so there wasn't a ton to do. But I have other ones that there's like 17 things to do in the living room, between taking off these things and moving this around and getting rid of that couch and pushing this over here. A little tidbit trick, subtle psychology trick for people. When you're going through and creating a checklist for somebody, if you put in pre-checked items like, hey, this looks great, this can stay, it looks awesome, like it will positively affect your client's experience. Okay, so don't just send them a checklist that all have empty check boxes and all the crap that they need to change and do. Throughout the checklist, add positive affirmations for things that they've already done well, and it will keep them going. I've noticed huge drastic shifts in their efficiency and how quickly they get these done if there are positive affirmations throughout. So just a quick insider tip on that one. Psychology, man, it works.
Well, I've seen that really helps us. Like before we had that process, what I would see is a signed listing, and then I would see just kind of this black hole of space from when they were signed to get in the market. A lot of people they didn't ever make it. You know what I mean? Like they just got fatigued and they just didn't finish the process because they had no clear outline of what to do. And this really helped with that process. So definitely helpful.
Exactly. And what it does is it allows, oops, here. Nope. Sorry, team. What it is it allows us to have something to follow up with them on, right? So like if you sign the listing paperwork, they know immediately that there's a next step. And the next step is going through their home and creating that checklist for them. And then now once we have the checklist, we do the walkthrough, put together the checklist, which is, it's tedious for sure, but it's worthy, right? It's 15, 20 minutes to put that thing together. Put that together, get that to them within 24 to 48 hours after the walkthrough. Now you have a reason to call them every single week at minimum, if not sooner, right? You're not just checking in like, how's it going there, guys? Like you have given them instructions. You have set the expectation that they have these suggested items to do. The more of these suggested items you do on this checklist, the better your outcome will be. And now it says, anything I can get you. Do you need anything at all to accomplish the things on the checklist? Are there any vendors I can connect you with? Do you have any questions on any of it? Like you have a specific reason to follow up with them every single day, even though they're already assigned listing. It keeps you in close proximity to them. You have a mutual vehicle toward the destination. Okay, so super important part of this process for sure. Now, like Michael kind of said, setting the expectation for going live on the market, for being on the market. I think winning listings has everything to do with your ability to articulate what their responsibility is in this process and whose responsibility is the outcome. Yes, Jan, I sure can. And that's just an example of one. But so what I mean by that, the better you get at being able to explain what exactly they have to do to get top dollar, the better off you're going to be. Okay. Now, most agents will make the mistake of saying, I will get you top dollar. I will sell your house for the most amount of money. Guys, do we really, really ultimately control what that number is? No, the market controls that number, y'all. Okay. But what our job is to give it the best chance possible, right? Maximize that as much as possible. So our ability to articulate their part in that process and that we have the answers to the questions they don't know they have yet is part of winning the listing. They need to be able to walk into it being like, this person can definitely answer or get me the answers for all the things that I'm going to be concerned about internally. As Sharon, the president of REAL, one of my favorite people on the planet, always says, bring the proof, right? As you have successes, as you have stories, as your teammates have stories, use those as proof. Because you can sit there and promise all day long, oh, I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do this. No, just tell the story of how that was done. You know, my husband, Mike, he happened to tell these people that doing an exterior paint, I know it was going to cost them $5,000 or $6,000, but it was going to make the home pop. It was the best thing that they could have done. The home ended up selling for, $20,000 more than they anticipated. stories, proof over promise. So those new people, are you in rooms? Are you talking to other agents? Are you hearing what other successes people are having? Use them. The story is still coming from you to that client. We're setting the expectations. We're articulating their part of the process. Again, I think if people go in and say, oh, this is easy, I'll take all of your stress away, I'll handle all these details, and I'll get you top dollar, you have set a very high bar for yourself that you probably can't fulfill. So it's super important to articulate. I think, Michael, I think you do a really good job of articulating what we want to see from the market, right? When we hit the market, when we go on the market, this is what we want to see. This is how we know that we've done well with the list price. We're going to see this kind of feedback. We're going to see these kind of showings, and having that conversation immediately up front is super important. Yes, Tracy, got to be realistic with yourself and your client. And yeah, Jim, we're a team. That's exactly it. Like, I'll talk to my clients and be like, I'm consulting because this is my specialty, but at the end of the day, you and I are working shoulder to shoulder on this baby, working together. How do you frame that, Jim?
Really, the conversation is, I'm not going to come in here and just tell you everything you need to do. Like, we're going to work together. Honestly, if you have a great idea, I want to listen to it. You know your home in a way I don't. I'm open to those ideas. And if your idea is crazy, I'll tell you it's crazy. But let's work together on this. But I will honestly say that because in the end, like, I think we go into the appointments and we forget that these are not sellers, these are people. Like, we just need to have a conversation with them because they are way more uncomfortable than we are. And they need to be able to hear from a real person how to get there, how to get where they're trying to go. And if we're just in there as a salesperson, they're not going to feel comfortable. And it's not going to be a team environment. I mean, we get to guide the conversation, but we need to also be on the same level with them and having conversations, or it's just never going to work in the end.
You have anything on this, Michael?
I think we've covered most of it. I think the challenge to everyone on here is to go back and really figure out what's your own unique value proposition. Like, we've shared with you a ton of what ours are, but what are the ones that are uniquely yours? And I think that's the most important thing. Don't just show up at the listing appointment and not have this figured out and dialed in. I shared on last week's call about the videos we sent before the buyer consultation is set. I think you want to do the same thing on the listing side. Make sure you've got a listing video that explains why people should list with you and what your proven listing process is. That way they've watched it before you get there. And there could be a lot of technical stuff that you put in there. Like, mine is 12 minutes long. It's pretty beefy. But when I get there, the first thing I ask them is, did you watch the video I sent you? And they say, yeah, every time. And so I'm able to not spend as much time on the details of the marketing or what we're doing there, and just really spend more time just connecting, if that makes sense.
Okay. We've got a couple minutes. I wanted to open up if people have comments or questions on any of this. We're open books, here to share.
Can I ask one?
Of course, Brennan.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for hosting. Mike, are you open to sharing that video? And in addition to that, do you change your listing process at all with the price if you feel like the seller is only hiring based on price? So if you're going in and you think, oh, they're just going to pick the agent with the highest price, do you change when you do the CMA in your listing appointment, or do you always start with it no matter what?
I always start with it. Do you mean prices in commissions, or prices in the sales price of the home?
The sales price. So let's say you're going in and they tell you we're just going to pick the agent with the highest price who promises us to sell it for the highest price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Sharon has talked about this one extensively. He's like, hey, you could totally take that person that's going to tell you this really high number, but I think that along with that, you should have an agreement that if it doesn't sell within a couple of weeks, that's not automatically a canceled listing. So that way that they've got skin in the game, they're spending money to take your listing, and they think you get sold that price. Give them a shot, see if they do it. And we try not to take overpriced listings. We're very direct about what we think the home is worth. I think we're a little bit on the aggressive side. We will push the market a little bit, but we're also looking at the sensors of where the market is at. We know the market data, we're looking at it nonstop. So we're giving them insights on if the inventory is creeping up or if it's going down. And that kind of tells us if we can be on the more aggressive side of comps or on the more conservative side. So I think once you educate them and you really give them a lot of data insights, more often than not, you actually get them to where the number needs to be to actually get the home sold. And I think you can kind of get past that as an objection, really. I think overpricing the home is just an objection, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Totally. Great question. Christine's got some fun nuggets in here. She likes to demo where most deals fall apart, showcase proactive things. She does like raw examples of appraisal packages she puts together, as well as a raw example of weekly seller reports, outlining everything they do week over week. Yeah, communication guarantee. I think with any of this, guys, I want to reiterate, and I say this, at least once a month on these things. If you say you're going to do something, follow up, particular service, communicate at a certain cadence, bring somebody in, close a loop on some sort of communication, you need to freaking do it. Like, and not just for the client, y'all, but for yourself. Like, that is a win. That is stacking a win, and that is building your own confidence. So if you set out like mentally, I'm going to go do this, and then you don't do it, or you forget to close that loop, it's going to degrade your own confidence, let alone the confidence that your client has in you. I want to really reiterate that. I got 1 more minute. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Well, thanks for joining us again today. Always a fun session on Build. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Next week, we are talking about you, building you as your brand and your personal brand and how that can build your business. So looking forward to that conversation next week, same time. All right, guys, have an awesome day. Talk to you soon.